Well, hey, welcome back to Almost Above Average. I am Chris McIntyre, and today I'm going to do a live react to an article my co-host sent me. J-Train sent me something. I haven't looked at it yet. We're going to do a live reaction and see what the heck is going on in the United States today. Okay, Republicans. Let's see. Republicans can easily end the shutdown if they want to. I mean, yeah, we already know that, right? They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency currently. So let's see. Let's make this bigger. Matthew Yele, I have no idea how to say that, is a columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, a co-founder of and a former columnist for Vox. He writes the slow, boring blog and newsletter. He's the author of 1 Billion Americans. All right. Here's an idea how to end the government shutdown. Congressional Republicans who have the majority in both chambers should vote to reopen the government. Yeah, we know. Seems simple, right? Yeah, it does. It really does. As a sophisticated political journalist, that's not me, I'm supposed to explain that this is not possible because there is this thing called the filibuster in the Senate, which essentially means that most legislation needs at least 60 votes to pass, and there are only 53 Republican senators. That's all true enough, but the filibuster itself can be overcome, as Senate Republicans have proved quite recently. Ooh, really? According to the Senate rules, a budget reconciliation bill, which is exempt from the filibuster, can't increase the long-term deficit. Last summer, however, when Republicans wanted to pass a reconciliation bill that increased the deficit, they changed the way they measured the bill's cost. And like magic, a bill that hadn't been eligible to pass with a simple majority passed with only 51 votes. Do you mean they changed the rules so they could pass something? Huh, I am perturbed. I am blown away. Or how about presidential appointments, which the Senate has to confirm? Democrats were taking advantage of the procedural rules to stall confirmations of nominees to lower level positions in President Donald Trump's administration. Republicans didn't like that. So now they changed the rules just last month to allow nominees to be confirmed in bulk. Of course, why not change the rules every time we need them changed? That makes sense. And it's not one-sided either. At one point during Barack Obama's presidency, Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was filibustering all judicial nominees. I remember that. Hoping to hold the seats vacant until his party got a Senate majority. So Democrats changed the rules by allowing lower court nominees to be confirmed by majority vote. Damn you, Obama! All the rule changing started roughly when the modern filibuster arrived, which was not that long ago. At the start of my career, not my career, guys, I'm reading an article. The Medicare Modernization Act of 2003 passed the Senate by a vote of 54 to 44. When President George W. Bush Samuel Alito was nominated to the Supreme Court, a number of Democrats voted yes on cloture and then no on confirmation, signaling that they do not agree with Alito's jurisprudence, but had no desire to turn his nomination into a big standoff. After the 2006 midterms, however, McConnell changed the game by turning the filibuster from a sometimes tactic to an always tactic. Ever since, majority parties have been expanding the scope of reconciliation bills and changing the rules to get things done. Yeah, I mean, the Democrats and Republicans both do it, you know. It is true that some Democrats are refusing to support a continuing resolution to open the government, but why should they? The Trump administration has made unprecedented use of rescission authority to claw back spending that has been duly appropriated by Congress. A resolution approving any rescissions can then pass the Senate by majority vote. Republicans are refusing to attach anti-rescission language to any legislation to keep the government open. And Trump has signaled to members of the House Freedom Caucus that there is no need to push for spending cuts because he can do rescissions at will. Wow. Democrats propose extending tax credits, a form of spending not subject to rescission, to make health insurance plans cheaper. But Republicans rejected it, saying it costs too much money. That's all fair enough. Republicans won majorities fair and square. If they don't want to spend money on health insurance because they think it's a better spent on a White House ballroom, a bailout of Argentina, or payoffs to farmers hurt by the Trump trade war, then that's their right. But why should Democrats vote for legislation that, by design, doesn't reflect any of their ideas or input, right? Traditionally, appropriations legislation has been bipartisan and negotiated between the chairs and ranking members of the relevant subcommittees in both chambers. This time around, House Republicans simply refused to engage in such a process. Their view was they could pass the party line bill, skip town, and then count on Senate Republicans to support their legislation. That's exactly what's happened. So now Republicans' idea is that having written and passed a bill on a purely partisan basis, Senate Democrats should vote for it to avert a shutdown. But why would Democrats want to do that? More to the point, what exactly is the Republican logic here? They are essentially insisting that the Democrats support a budget process they were excluded from. Bananas, how you Republicans think. Of course, if Republicans don't want to do the appropriations on the basis of party line votes, that's fine. The solution then is to return to a bipartisan process, which in this case would mean making concessions to Democrats on rescissions and or healthcare. Alternatively, if they don't want to make any concessions, that's also fine. The consequences then are they don't get any Democratic their votes. That's common sense. In a parliamentarian system, that would be the end of the story. Republicans have concurrent majorities, so they would just write partisan spending bills and pass them. Democrats would complain, and eventually there would be an election. Instead, we are living through a peculiarly American key fob in which Republicans pretend they need Democratic votes to end a shutdown because they are hoping to divide the opposing party. And Democrats are pretending that they have leverage that can allow them to mitigate the harms of Trumpism by refusing to vote for Republican legislation. If Republicans want to negotiate in good faith, that would be great. And if they don't, well, that's not great, but at least it's understandable. What's silly is the pretense that it's the Democratic minority rather than the Republican majority. That is the actual holdup. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys have been seeing if you watch YouTube at all, any political clips, everything that the right has been saying, they are completely 100% putting the onus on the Democratic Party for the government shutdown. The Republicans in office, they have the presidency, they have the majority in the Senate, they have the majority in the House. They do not need the Democrats to pass anything. They don't need the Democrats to keep the government open. They could have done that on their own. They have all of the levers of the government. So what the hell are they doing? I thought that was bonkers. So it makes me wonder what kind of stuff is coming across the feeds of everyone in MAGA. Because obviously they're not seeing the truth. So it's got to be just a billion other MAGA content creators just guessing at what they think is happening, because that seems to be the whole thing. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Can the Republicans reopen the government if they want? Is it the Democrats' fault for shutting down the government? If you say yes, tell me why it's the Democrats' fault. We're not in power in any chamber. So I'm fascinated to see what you say about that. Anyway, hit subscribe. This is the Almost Above Average podcast, and we'll see you later. Peace.